What's up, everybody? Welcome on in to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen Engineering. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, and trusted to perform. We're inside MRN HQ here in Concord, North Carolina. My name is Chris Wilner, MRN pit reporter, MRN announcer Kyle Rickey out at the Stafford Motor Speedway. Kyle, seasons are winding down. We are getting ready for that fall transition where we start talking championships, schedules, movers and shakers. We've already had some championships with Bowman Gray, South Boston this past weekend. How are things looking up your neck of the woods at Stafford? You guys are getting close to wrapping up the season too, aren't you?
Yeah, we're down to the final 3 weeks of the season up here, coming off a great night last Friday night with Adam Gray picking up our extended late model win, 50 laps of distance there. Brand new SK Modified winner, RJ Marcotte. Todd Owen looking for 3 consecutive championships in a row after going 17 years without winning one. So a lot of storylines, and yeah, we're down to it. Although it's 93 degrees outside here today, so it never feels like, we didn't. What I'm trying to say is August, we didn't hit 90 degree once, and now we're in a 3-day swing here, so it does not feel like the season is winding down.
No, for sure. I think that we're all sorts of messed up this year with like delayed
We
summer,
are.
and then now it's probably going to be delayed fall, and who knows, winter may not even hit till December. We'll wait and see. But we've got, speaking of champions, Brandon Ward, who picked up the Bowman Gray Championship about a week and a half ago or so, joins us on the show. He just picked up his second Smart Tour Modified Race win of the year. He's going for back-to-back championships. So Bowman Gray, and now he's second in the Smart Tour Championship with 7 races to go. We'll talk all things modifieds with Brandon. Plus, we've got big news in terms of the latest grassroots or NASCAR Roots driver for Junior Motorsports getting ready to make the bump up to the Truck Series. We'll talk about that and much more. But let's talk about the week that was, Kyle. And I was down there, or I was not down there, actually. Let's start with the ARCA Menard Series. DuQuoin, the dirt track. We were talking about last week that Brent Cruz had the opportunity for that $34,000 bonus to sweep the dirt races. He came up one spot short to a guy that sounds like a broken record. We talk about him every week, but it's Jesse Love does it again.
Yeah, took the lead early. Lap 21, I believe he passed Williams Wallach to pick up the race lead and then ultimately the race win. Good racing from second on back, though. Brent Cruz, Will Kimball finished in third, Andres Perez fourth, so Wallach rounded out the top 5. An event punctuated by several caution flags, a lot of minor spins. Sean Hingorani got collected in a 3-car incident, kind of ruined his day and an opportunity for a good run. But Jesse Love continuing to build on that lead. It doesn't seem to matter what the track, whether it's a super speedway, a short track, a dirt track, an asphalt track. No matter what, he's out front, and looks like the championship is all but his with 4 to go.
Yeah, 128-point lead, his 9th win of the year. I think right now Jesse's just trying to set the record for most wins in a season. Yeah. But for him, and his team, they're rolling. Again, still a few races to go, still some opportunities for some other names. But you're right, Jesse Love seems to have it all wrapped up. Will Kimmel, though, shout out to him, 3rd in his first ARCA start of the year. Qualified well as well, so congratulations to Will. Good stuff also going into the NASCAR Darlington weekend, Kyle. We talked about it, how the locked-in 150 at Florence was moved to Friday night. We had some NASCAR stars in the field like Chase Briscoe, and last-minute Dale Earnhardt Jr., I think his tweet said, "What the heck, let's go have some fun on the way down to Darlington." Good show. Good show. Sam Yarborough picked up the win and, of course, locked him as the pole sitter for the upcoming South Carolina 400 coming up in November. But what'd you think of locked-in 150? We had Raja Carruth down there as well.
Yeah, great field of cars. Just the right amount of cars took the green flag. There wasn't a lot of attrition. About 24, I think, went green, and some big names, as you mentioned. But Sam Yarborough has those South Carolina tracks figured out, whether it was the old Myrtle Beach Speedway in South Carolina, where he won the South Carolina 400 back in 2017. This obviously puts him in prime position to pick up his second win, starting from the pole here in about 6 weeks' time. So congratulations to Sam. Chase Briscoe finished in the 2nd spot. Had a good day as well, driving for Chad Bryant Racing, and that team is always strong on the Southern Late Model Tours, and Chase, came up 1 spot short of a win there.
Yeah, if you would have asked him on Thursday during practice, what his chances are, he was like, "Man, I'm still trying to figure this thing out." Well, he finished 2nd, so it's very respectable, and considering beating the likes of Brendan Butterbean Queen, who certainly knows how to win down south, and Dale Jr. with a top 10 in 6, so a respectable run for him. Again, that South Carolina 400 is in November, which will wrap up the season down there. NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, again, continues to rip and roar through the back half of the summer, getting close now to the end of their season, still several races to go, but Ron Silk finally gets more than a point advantage in the championship, picking up the win. It's been lockstep with him and Justin Bonsignor, but what'd you think of that race down there at Oswego?
Yeah, it was a good race until the final, 10 laps or so, handful of laps, when Justin Bonsignor was collected in an incident, a three-car incident in turn number 1. They went piling into the styrofoam to the outside wall. Looked like it was snowing for a minute. Kind of the early safer barrier of the sport, and Oswego still uses them with the super modifieds there every week. But yeah, he was able to open up, talking about Ron Silk, a 17-point lead now heading into the series next race at the Monadnock Speedway coming up this weekend. Another good run for Austin Beers. We have talked about this young driver all season, a multi-time winner. Stayed consistent in the top 5, finished in the 2nd spot. Bobby Santos, a part-time campaigner, a former champion, finished in 3rd. Anthony Cecily, Kyle Bonsignor rounding out the top 5. But yeah, the tough hit came from Justin Bonsignor being collected in that incident on the front straightaway and finishing 15th in the 18-car field.
Yeah, it'll be something, too, if we get down to the last race of the season, and that's the difference right there.
Right.
I think all eyes will go back to what happened at Oswego. To north of the border, Kyle, speaking of thrilling finishes, Kevin Lacroix and LP Dumoulin put on an absolute show in the NASCAR Pinty Series at CTMP. And we always get good shows there, but I think both cars were sideways through the final 2 corners, neck and neck, and it was Kevin Lacroix that picked up the win at CTMP to sweep there. But boy, what a race for the Pinty Series.
And LP could have dumped him. And we have seen it many times before. We've seen it, especially in the Truck Series, where that final set of corners, what is it, turn 8 and turn 9, coming back onto the front stretch, that left-hander and then that right-hander. That's where we always seen those moves made, and he didn't. And it was Kevin Lacroix picking up his first win of the season, dominated much of the race, but LP let him know that he was there. The final couple laps, especially that final set of corners, a near photo finish, a great show. As always, the NASCAR Pinty Series, and hard to believe, kind of, they have 1 race left. I know it's a short season up there as well. 1 to go here in a couple of weeks for that tour.
With all the good racing we have up there, I'm just wondering, if NASCAR's paying attention, we need to get the trucks back up there because, boy, it puts on a good show. By the way, Trayton Lapsovich still leads the points with 35 advantage heading into the finale of the Fall Brawl at Delaware Speedway, north of the border, coming up on September 24th. Before we get to our guests, let's talk about Brandon Ward's win with the Smart Tour at Carteret County Speedway over the weekend. His 2nd of the season puts him in that 2nd spot in the championship, so he has an opportunity to win 2 championships at 2 different series and tracks in 1 season, but he had to do it getting around Ryan Newman. And obviously we know Rocket Man, former Cup Series veteran and multi-time race winner, multi-time pole winner, he's hard to get around. But Brandon Ward made it kind of look easy. What'd you think of that pass for the win, Kyle, by Brandon Ward there at the end?
Yeah, with about 10 laps to go, was able to move around Ryan Newman, one of the toughest drivers in motorsports to pass, whether it be in a Cup car, in a modified, in the SRX series. Ryan Newman is always tough to get around, and Brandon was able to do just that. Has all the momentum in the world on his side right now, coming off a big championship at Bowman Gray Stadium just a couple of weeks ago. 2nd in points now with 6 races to go in the Smart Modified Tour, getting his 2nd win of the season. I love what the Southern Modified Tour has become in the last couple of seasons. A great field of 26 cars, including guys like Ryan Newman and Bobby Labonte and Brandon Ward, who we'll talk to here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll talk all things modifieds. Of course, his championship wrapped up a couple weeks ago at Bowman Gray, and going for another one here with the Smart Tour. Do want to give a shout out to, by the way, Donnie Wilson. We talk about him in the development that he has on the late model side. He got behind the wheel and won at Winchester. First time he won since 2017. He did it with the ASA CRA All-Star, or Super Series, I should say, a former All-America 400 winner. So shout out to Donnie Wilson. Traded in the owner's hat for a driving suit, and he got it done so he could still wheel it. Pretty cool stuff. All right, let's get to our guest coming up on the other side of the break. That is Brandon Ward. He's coming up next on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen Engineering.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, Sirens, controllers, and warning systems for the automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Whelen products are designed, sourced, and manufactured in America and tested on site to meet the toughest industry standards. Whelen Engineering, manufactured in America for over 70 years. We never left, and we're here to stay.
Coast to Coast presented by Whelen Engineering. As promised, joining us via Zoom, it is Bowman Gray Stadium champion and now two-time Smart Modified Tour winner this year, Brandon Ward. Brandon, congratulations, first of all, on all the success, but let's start with just this past weekend because a lot's been going on over the last couple of weeks with you. Passing Ryan Newman for the win out there at Carteret, Speedway. What was that like? I mean, the race itself was great, but when it comes down to the final laps and you're hounding a guy like Ryan Newman, who we all know has a reputation of probably being one of the hardest to pass on the NASCAR side. Was he hard to pass in a modified as well?
Absolutely. It was, honestly, it's some of the most fun I've had in a race car in a long time. It really was. Racing a guy like Ryan, who you can really race good with at the end of a race. And we battled hard for those last probably 20 laps. And, man, he knows exactly how to make the back of those modifieds as wide as he can make them. I mean, that place it's tough to pass down there anyway. The outside groove really never came in that much. So it was really tough to try to race a guy like Ryan at the end of that race.
It's been a number of years now, but both Ryan and Bobby Labonte, both in the event, both finished in the top 5. Yep. Like I mentioned, it's been several seasons that we have seen this, but what do they bring to that tour?
Well, they bring a lot to it. First of all, like I say, they're just good guys to race with. You bring in someone with their experience level to the modified world. I think that's big. A lot of exposure to the series, to bring, cup guys back to our level, so to speak, and to race it on the short tracks. I think it's good. It's good for the sport, good for the division. It's good for us as racers. I really enjoy them being there. I think it makes us better to race against guys like Bobby and Ryan. There's a lot of good short track racers already involved with these divisions. And then when you mix talent like they have in with that, it just creates for real good racing, I feel like.
Obviously, you've been a part of the Smart Tour as well. This was your second win this year, but you've been a part of it for quite some time. So I think a lot of people forget the talent level that's a part of that series. They like to think of the National Tour with the Whelen Modified Tour, but where is the Smart Tour at? Because I feel like every year it picks up a bunch of steam and running really well, especially this year with the level of talent.
Well, it really has. I feel like from day one it has grown. The car counts have been great. Like you say, there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good drivers. I feel like there's 10 or 12 cars at least, if not more, that could win that race every race we go to now. And I feel like that's just continued to grow over the last couple of years. So it's been a lot of fun to race with the Smart Tour. Really looking forward to running some Whelen Tour races as well. I enjoy the mods. I enjoy the open wheel cars, and I've had a lot of fun driving them over the last few years. So and it's been cool to see the Smart Tour grow over the last couple of years.
Running still 6 to go in the Smart Tour, second in points, a shot at the championship. Do you feel like momentum is on your side?
I feel like it is. I feel like we've got a lot of momentum behind us right now. All the guys on the Coulter Motorsports team over on the Smart Tour that I'm driving for, they do a great job. Randy Renfro and that entire group. And, we've already got a couple wins. I feel like it's going to take a few more. And that's what we're gearing up for, is to just try to win races, let the points fall how they fall. I feel like it's competitive. It's so competitive right now. We're second, we're not far out, but it's also tough to gain ground when the same guys are running good every week. So I feel like we've got to, win races to gain points, to get bonus points, to get us into the final 3 for the last race. And, that's really what our focus is to just try to continue to win races throughout the remainder of the season.
And as you go for this Smart Tour Championship, and obviously that would be 2 for 2 here on this year, how do you prepare for that schedule, those races, that championship battle, then at Bowman Gray when the racing is completely different, but you're at the same track week in and week out? So how do you switch your mindset in terms of each series or each track in the different style of racing?
Well, you're exactly right. first off, I think racing, every week, the more you race, I feel like the better it is for you no matter what. So we come off of a 17-week stretch at Bowman Gray, even with a few Smart Tour Friday night shows mixed in there, to right back tour racing. So it is a big adjustment. You're going from not only the same track, but kind of the same format every week. Now you're back touring, and all these tracks are different. So everywhere we go, we're at Dominion this weekend, completely different racetrack than we just left at Carteret County. But I enjoy that. The touring type racing is what I sort of grew up doing. I really like that. I'm glad to be back tour racing again and traveling. I like going to different facilities and different tracks, and just the the diverse racetracks we go to on the Smart Tour. I feel like it is an adjustment, but it's an adjustment that I like for sure.
How demanding is that, coming off the Bowman Gray April to August grind and now going into, for the most part, 7 consecutive weeks of racing on the Smart Tour to wrap up that season?
Well, you never get a break, that's for sure. We come off 17 weeks of racing there with New Day Motorsports. We're still working hard with the New Day program to get a car turned around and ready to come run some Wheeling Tour races here, to run Wilkesboro and Martinsville. Randy Renfro and the guys on the Coulter Motorsports side, they've had a little bit of time off from racing, but they're geared up working on the race cars over there now. We come back, and myself and a couple of my guys at New Day, we go back and forth between both teams. So you really don't ever get a break, but it's good. It keeps you, it's like it keeps you focused, and it keeps you on track to be able to jump right from one right back to where you need to be. And I enjoy that. I like racing. I like the busy schedule, and I kind of look forward to coming right out of one and jump right back into the other.
For sure, and a lot coming up on your schedule as we noted. But let's go back a little over a week ago or so. Championship night at Bowman Gray Stadium. How nerve-wracking were the final, I guess, couple races, but definitely going into the last one? When you look at the points battle, and obviously it's called the Madhouse for a reason, and something always happens. But how nerve-wracking was it going to that championship finale?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's nerve-wracking. It's that last race was pretty rough. It was a long race. It seemed like it drug out for a while, and man, I don't think there was anybody people in the points battle, or just guys trying to win that race. I don't think any of us got through that night without some damage. But it was a good show. It was a good night, good race for the fans, good season finale. Last year we sort of went into that race, same scenario. Myself and Tim, we were just a few behind, and we just didn't quite get there. This year, we knew what we had to do. I felt like the momentum was on our side going into that last race. And it really took all night to get ourselves in position where I felt like, okay, we're in a really good spot, because it seemed like all night, Tim and I, we were racing right there around each other. Passed back and forth several times. So it was a very fun race. It was definitely nerve-wracking, and a lot of action, that went down with that. So, last year we were second in both deals. We were second in the Bowman Gray points. We were second in the Smart Tour points. This year, it's nice to have already, sealed up the Bowman Gray Championship, and it'd be nice to now this year, if we could, to win both of them like we finished second in both of them last year. So that's definitely the goal, and definitely what we've got our sights and our focus set on right now.
So take me under the helmet and into the mind of you under that red flag when it was all breaking out in the closing laps with Junior Snow and Tim first under yellow, and then they stopped everybody and they continued under the red.
Yeah. Well, honestly, as a competitor and a driver, I hate to see anything go on where someone's crashed out. I hate to see race cars get torn up. I was just glad we had raced ourselves into the position that we needed to be in, and have the cars between us that we needed to have between us before all that happened, because, I would have hated for it to have reverse role and us not been in that position, and that be what put us there. So even that being said, you still hate that it happens. You want to see it race out to the very end. we were so focused on what was going on. I don't even really know what all caused all that to break loose. But yeah, definitely glad that we were able to race our way and get to second and get the cars between myself and Tim that we needed to before all that happened, for sure.
Your crown champion, what were the initial reactions? Was it relief? I mean, obviously excitement, but like to add a Bowman Gray Stadium championship to your resume. I mean, what did that moment feel like? Was it validation about just like you said, the heartbreak of last year coming up so close?
Well, it was definitely a feeling of accomplishment. We took on a lot of new things this year. This was the first year at New Day Motorsports that we had attempted having a 2-car team. So it was not just myself. We had Daniel Beeson in our second car this year. So it was two cars to prepare every week. We brought in some new guys to do that deal. Will Spa come back on board at New Day this year to crew chief for me. And, he and I had a lot of success in years past, but he's been gone for 4 or 5 years now. So it was his first year back. A lot of new things were going on for us as a race team this year. So we knew it was going to be a restructuring, rebuilding year. It's something that we talked about back at the beginning of the season. So honestly, to come in with all that going on and be able to win the championship, with everything happening and, first year for so many things, it was definitely a feeling of accomplishment and a feeling of relief that we made it through this and we were able to pull this off the first year we attempted it back with Will being back on board. So it was definitely nice to win a championship for Kevin and Jeff. Jeff Day had never been a part of winning a championship before. So to get one for him as a team owner was real special for me as well.
How difficult is it to stay consistent there with all the different formats? You open with a 200 lapper, you have 100 lappers, win 25s. It's different every week. How do you find that right formula week to week to remain so consistent to run for the title?
Well, honestly, it's tough. It's really tough. Tougher than a lot of people, give it credit. It's tougher than I even expected it to be when I first started racing over there a few years back. And, it is different every week. You go from 25 lap races to 200 lap races. It's complete different setups, complete different mindsets. Some weeks it's redraw races. Some weeks they're straight up races. It's just to know what you have to do and change how you have to race depending on what week it is, the length of the race, the redraw or no redraw. There's a lot that goes on that honestly, in my racing career, I've never experienced a lot of those things. So Bowman Gray in general has been a change for me. And just adjusting to that change and those format changes week to week is something I've had to get used to.
Speaking of adaptation, when we go back and looking at your schedule for the rest of the year with the Smart Tour and the 7 races that are left, you mentioned Dominion this weekend. Where are some of those strong points for you guys looking ahead to try to win a second championship this year? Is Dominion one that you feel strong with? Is it all the tracks, or do you have some circled on the calendar?
Well, I definitely feel strongly about Dominion. We had a good run up there last year. We have Motor Mile coming up, which we've won, both of the Smart Tour races that have been there. Orange County's been a good track for me in the past, whether it be in the mods or supers or basically anything we've raced there, late model stock cars. So, those are some definite strong points. We had a good run at Tri-County last year, ended up second there. I guess the curveball is going to be Lonesome Pines. It's been, I think, 2006 was the last time I raced at Lonesome Pine Speedway. A lot of changes have taken place there. So that's kind of the unknown, I would say, not just for our team, but for probably all of the Smart Tour teams. But yeah, I feel real good about, the majority of the remainder of these tracks and, feel good about our chances.
We've touched on Bowman Gray. We've touched on the Smart Tour, 26 cars this past weekend for the tour. Seems like modified racing in the South in a pretty good place right now. The options are limited, obviously less limited than up here in the Northeast where I am in Connecticut. But the options down there are seemingly pretty healthy right now.
it has grown so much, it seems like, in the past few years. And that's been really nice to see because, as I said earlier, I really enjoy the modifieds. I love driving them and working on them. They've just been, they're very fun cars and good. It's been a good division to be a part of, and really glad to see just the growth of open wheel modified racing in the Southeast over the last few years. It's really turned in the right direction for us, I feel like.
Before we let you go, obviously we talked about it before we got back on from the break. It's just how quickly time has flown by. We're sitting here in the month of September. Championships are being wrapped up. It's never too early to start talking about 2024 with schedules starting to be released here in the coming weeks. I know you're amidst the championship hunt, but do you know what maybe next year looks like? Is it going to be a little more of the same going for both championships, either at Bowman Gray and Smart Tour? Maybe expand a little bit. What do you think?
Well, I hope so. I would love to come back and race for both championships again. Would also at the same time like to expand and try to run a few more of the NASCAR Wheeling Tour races along with that next year. Really, that's on our agenda to discuss here pretty soon. There's been 3 or 4 different things we've discussed about, but trying to get through the end of the Bowman Gray season and then you jump right back to Smart Tour racing. We really haven't sat down yet with New Day and with Coulter Motorsports and came up with a plan. But I know that's on our schedule to do very soon. And the main thing is just to I feel confident we're going to keep racing and keep racing the modifieds. And but it would be nice to be able to come back and, no matter what, contend for 2 titles again. But also, like I say, I would love to add a few more of the NASCAR Wheeling Tour races to our schedule as well.
I know travel is a concern with the budgets and stuff, but we'd love to see you up here in the Northeast at some point down the road as well.
I would love to. I would love to come to Thompson or in New Hampshire and then run some of those races like that. Thompson has always been a track I've wanted to race at and never have made it there. So that's definitely to come to the Northeast and run some races and race with those guys up there would be a lot of fun. And it's something that we definitely we've got our sights set on it. Just a matter of trying to put it all together and make it happen for sure.
Yeah, I think Kyle was alluding to Spring Sizzler at Stafford. That's his racetrack that Kyle works at. So
yeah,
maybe you can add that to the list too.
And that would be great as well. Stafford's got so much history with the mods, and would be great to come there as well. Just with mod racing being so big in that area, it would be fun to come up there and run some of those racetracks that I've never gotten to race at and race against some of those guys up there that are so competitive in this sport as well.
Be fun to have you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing what your next year's schedule looks like down to come. But best of luck in your title chase for the Smart Tour. Congratulations on your championship at Bowman Gray, and look forward to catching up with you down the road as you find more success.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on today.
That's Brandon Ward. Coming up next on the other side of the break here on Coast to Coast, we're going to look at the calendar and, of course, some big news and notes, including a grassroots racer making his NASCAR National Series debut next week. We'll talk about all that coming up next here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Wheelan Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and warning systems for the automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Wheelan products are designed, sourced, and manufactured in America and tested on site to meet the toughest industry standards. Wheelan Engineering, manufactured in America for over 70 years. We never left, and we're here to stay.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Wheelan Engineering. Just wrapped up with Brandon Ward. Kyle, what do you think? 6 races to go. He's got a shot for a championship, and like you said, I think all but one are tracks that are to his liking, so he's definitely got a shot to do it.
Yeah, just do what he did at Bowman Gray Stadium. Don't be flashy. Remain consistent toward the front. I know it's hard to do when you're racing Burt Myers for a championship. Yeah. And in years past, it was Burt Myers and Tim Brown that we were talking about in these situations where they were doing so well on the tour and winning championships at Bowman Gray. But this year, Brandon Ward has kind of become the bright light down in modified country down in the South. And I think he's very capable. It might take a misstep or two by Burt Myers these next 6 weeks, but Brandon, has the momentum and the confidence, and that's, half the battle.
It'll be fun to watch. Again, they're at Dominion this weekend. Speaking of championships, congratulations. We crowned a couple over the course of the weekend. Steve Apel won his 6th Slinger Track Championship in the late model, and Carter Langley, who we had on the show earlier this year, going toe-to-toe with one of the best to do it at South Boston Speedway, Peyton Sellers. He was able to hold off Peyton, who came from the back to try to get that 3-point bonus, which is all they were separated by going into the season finale. But Carter Langley held him off to win his track championship at South Boston. So we'll kind of keep tabs on who else wins championships here in the coming weeks, but congratulations to those two. Let's move on to some news and notes, Kyle. Carson Kvapil. I mean, I feel like we've had him on this show since he was a wee little lad growing up in the grassroots ranks, and of course running for Junior Motorsports, the defending Cars Tour late model stock champion, and he's currently leading that series again with 5 wins. He made a big announcement this weekend. He's going to run in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, going back to where his dad was so successful back in the day, and he's going to do it at Bristol coming up in 2 weeks. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, driving for Spire Motorsports, a truck that we know as well. I feel like everyone that gets into that truck, whether it be on the road courses or on the ovals, it's been a Cup guy, I know, in several races in this season and last year. Runs well. I think he is, Bristol's going to be the perfect opportunity for him to make his debut in NASCAR's national spotlight. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I love racing at Bristol, so much on the line as the Truck Series are in the middle of their playoffs, and to have him in the field, along with a lot of the other short trackers that we see come out of the woodwork to try to make that race. It's going to be a special race for him and for the entire series here in just over a week's time.
Yeah, and for his family, it'll be cool to have another Kvapil back in the Craftsman Truck Series. I mean, man, that's just throwing me back to, 10, 12, 15 years ago. But really cool for an opportunity for Carson. Again, a lot of success already, going for his 2nd straight Cars Tour championship as well. He'll be out there at the Bristol Motor Speedway. MRN will have the coverage of that Truck Series race coming up next week. All right, let's move on to some other news real quick. Cade Brown. It took, 3 days after winning the Bobby Isaac Memorial to be officially deemed the winner because of a questionable measurement on a spindle, but he nevertheless got the win in an iconic race out there at Hickory. It always seems like something, Kyle, at Hickory when it comes to the tech shed, but this time no DQ, just took a couple extra days to get a measurement in to crown him the winner.
It's been one of those years at the Hickory Motor Speedway. Their championship night, double points night this coming Saturday, but congratulations to Gabe. Yesterday, 2 days ago, officially crowned the win from the weekend.
Yep, and that was also the car owned by the track promoter's son as well, so there's been some issues with that, but all is well. Congratulations to Cade. And then Ty Majeski, Kyle, over the weekend picked up another big check. I know he's going through a lot in the Craftsman Truck Series side with the big L2 penalty after Milwaukee, but he just turns right around, hops in a late model, and wins a big one, the Jim Sauter Classic 200 at Dells Raceway Park in Wisconsin. Does a win like that maybe help kind of get the mojo back a little bit as we go, cut line racing here at Kansas this weekend?
Yeah, a win's a win. No matter what it's in, whether it be a late model, a super late model, a legend car, or truck. And we've talked about it with, earlier today with momentum and momentum being on the side of these drivers and how much it can help in running for a championship late in the season. And right now, Ty has it. Looked good, like you mentioned, at Milwaukee. Unfortunately, had the penalty. Never really was a factor coming up through the field, but was able to get back on top of this game this past weekend at Dells.
Yeah, and of course, he is already locked in with the win at IRP, but when those points reset, he will be on the outside looking in when we start the round of 8. All right, a couple big races coming up, Kyle, in terms of the national schedule. To look at the calendar, Monadnock Speedway, you alluded to it. We were talking about the Tour. Doug Coby is back with Tommy Baldwin Racing, which is so good to see. Of course, Tommy battling cancer. He made that announcement several weeks ago. Has already started treatment, so all the best to Tommy. But the race team is going to be back at the racetrack, and I know a lot of people are going to be rooting for Doug this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. After missing 2 races, they return. They are the championship leader in the Wheeling Granite State Short Track Cup, promoted by Josh Veneta, a 3-event series held in New Hampshire, and Doug has finished in the top 6 in the first 2. looking for to cap off that kind of championship within a championship for the NASCAR Wheel and Modifieds this Saturday at the Monadnock Speedway. Always put on a good show there for the Modifieds. I expect they'll get a good field and will be a good event as they get one step closer to crowning their champion.
That's right. Again, Ronnie Silk, 17-point lead in that championship race. The ARCA Menard Series is getting down to the nitty-gritty of their season. Of course, we talked about Jesse Love, 128-point lead. He's going to take it into a place that he's already won this year, and that is Kansas Motor Speedway with the Suchi Fast Track 150. The Motor Racing Network will have the call of that race 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. Kyle, can anybody challenge Jesse? I know we've kind of thrown some names around in the past. I mean, Andres Perez, he's a guy that has been so close so many times, Mr. Consistent, again, now second in the championship and 128 points back, but doesn't mean he can't challenge Jesse Love for the win. Is there anybody else on the entry list that maybe can get that done?
I don't think so. I think Jesse Love right now is in a league of his own. They have the speed. It's a high-speed racetrack, obviously. I think, Frankie Muniz, he's third in points. He's been consistent, but I don't think he has shown much speed this season. Andres Perez, looks good on the short tracks. I think he may challenge Jesse at Bristol Motor Speedway in just over a week's time, where he ran so well a year ago. But I think it's going to be hard for anybody to beat Jesse Love at Kansas Speedway this weekend.
And don't forget, Jesse Love and also ARCA West veteran Jake Drew going to run the Truck Series race. Right. So double duty Friday for those two at Kansas. And if Jesse wins the ARCA race, he'd be the first driver since ARCA started running at Kansas to sweep both races in the same season. All right, Kyle, before we let you go, a couple races we talked about nationally. Locally, there's a ton of races. I know on Thursday, we've got lots going on. We've got Pro Late Model Champions at Slinger. Oxford Plains has a points championship night. But what's Stafford got going on? You've got a big Friday night ahead, don't you?
Yeah, we got the TC 13 this week, a 13-lap race of the SK Modifieds, a tribute race to the late, great Ted Christopher that pays $1,300 to win, plus a bunch of other bonus money, some safety initiative program that Teddy's wife Quinn has put together over the last 4 years that brings safety equipment into the race teams at the Stafford Motor Speedway. So that's happening on Friday night as well for those SK Modified teams, plus a full plate of racing with all of our other divisions. Season's winding down. Hopefully Mother Nature cooperates with the heat and any pop-up storms. We've been lucky the last couple of weeks, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Knock on wood. I think there's some wood on this desk. There you go. I'll do that for you. Thunder Road in action Friday. Of course, Saturday, a full NASCAR weekly slate on the Flow Racing dial. So if you don't have Flow Racing, definitely check it out. But that'll do it as far as the calendar. Now, Kyle, don't forget MRN. I know you're not going to be with us, but I will be with the MRN crew down at Kansas for I guess it's a quadruple, but it's technically 5 broadcast weekend for us at Kansas, one of the busiest weekends as we go playoff racing with 2 of the 3 national series. It all begins Friday with the ARCA Menard Series, again, the Suchi Fast Track 150, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Immediately following is the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the cutoff race for the opening round that'll eliminate 2 drivers going into the round of 8. That is Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for that race. Saturday morning, we go NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying at noon Eastern Time, followed by the NASCAR Xfinity Series regular season finale, where we whittle down the top 12 drivers at 2:30 Eastern. And of course, Sunday, the NASCAR Cup Series race number 2 of the opening round. We'll start with NASCAR Live Race Day at 2 p.m. Eastern, all from the land of Oz in Kansas. Kyle, final thoughts before we let everybody go.
Yeah, I love that racetrack. Seems like the entire NASCAR world will be there this weekend with ARCA. One quick shout out. Congratulations to Brandon Brown, not the driver, but the new promoter at the South Boston Speedway. Chase and Carly Brashears will be stepping down from that position. They've done a great job at that racetrack the last couple of years. And as they step away, I think the track's in pretty good hands. Brandon Brown, very well respected in the local short track scene down in the Carolinas and in Virginia. And he should be a great addition to that racetrack going into 2024 and beyond.
Absolutely. Well-deserving Brandon Brown. Congratulations. All right. Well, that'll do it for us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Whelen Engineering. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, and trusted to perform. For Kyle Rickey and our producer, Pat Jaggers, I'm Chris Wilner. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your weekend of grassroots racing.